Okay, so what is sex addiction? So we could get into like different acting out behaviors, you know, um, and explain it that way, deep inner mental health issues that are causing it, past trauma, all those things are relevant. But the core of addiction is the same for any addiction, whether it be sobriety, for substance use, for food, for sex addiction, and that's really what I want to talk about. But just to be clear up front, that sexual acting out is anything from, you know, compulsively thinking about sex all the time, compulsive masturbation, looking at pornography all hours of the night, soliciting prostitutes. There's all sorts of different types of acting out behaviors. And it's not so much about understanding the behavior as it is understanding the cycle of addiction. And so that's what I really want to talk about. And everybody's a little bit unique on kind of what their primary behavior is. Most people who suffer from sex addiction have multiple behaviors that they engage in. But the point is that it's a behavior that's destructive to their life, either externally, so in their relationships, in their job, and things like that, and or disrupted to them internally. So when they act out, they feel guilty afterwards. It causes them not to be able to focus, not to be able to progress in their life, and they're stuck in this cycle of addiction. And so the real answer to what is sex addiction is it's an inability to stop the compulsive sexual behavior despite despite all the negative consequences that come with that. So that's really important. It's like a person wants to stop, but they can't. And they'll promise themselves over and over and over again that this is the last time I'm going to do it. But then they have a mind and a thinking process that sort of takes control and brings them back into that behavior over and over and over again. So it's this utter inability to stop, no matter how bad the consequences. So they might be facing legal issues, they might be facing issues with their marriage, they may have lost their job, or they may be threatened to lose their job, but their behavior continues, and everybody looks at them and goes, what is this person crazy? They have everything to live for, but they keep doing this behavior over and over and over again. So the addict, and this was true for me too, the sex addict, after a while, is like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I just make a decision to change this behavior and just do it? So that's really the core issue. It's this inability to stop despite negative consequences. Now there's a few primary symptoms to this. One is usually there's something like a compulsion. Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous calls it an allergy to alcohol. What that really means is it's an inability to stop once you start. So in other words, when a person starts acting out, a good example of this is like maybe they start looking at some pictures on Instagram, and then they start looking at pornography, and then what happens is this compulsion. It's almost like a physical compulsion where they, at that point, they can't stop. That's why people will literally look at pornography all through the night, or they will cruise looking for a prostitute, or looking for hookups, outside of their marriage, that kind of thing. But it's this compulsion that once they're in this physical compulsion, it's like a mental trance where they're just going and going and going and going and going, and it doesn't stop until they've kind of fulfilled on the acting out that they want to do. So um, there's that compulsion. So it's a compulsion, and over time that gets worse. So it might start with masturbation, then it goes to prostitution, then it goes to other things and other things and other things, and it progresses over time. And the need to do that acting out behavior, that desire, becomes stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And my experience is with people with sex addiction, um, you never get over that. You never get to kind of go back to normal. You can have sex, you can have healthy sexual relations with a significant other or a spouse, but you never get to like do the acting out behaviors in safety. It will always trigger that compulsion that just, which is what really causes all the issues. It causes like doing it at work and getting threatened to lose your job, or getting into legal issues, a spouse or significant other finding out. It's what causes all the issues. Now, this is the key. So that's the first thing, this compulsion. Once I start, I can't stop. But the key here is A person can tell themselves a million times, I'm going to stop, I'm never going to do it again. But they have a mind that leads them back to that acting out behavior over and over and over again. Remember, I said it's the inability to stop despite negative consequences. The real problem is we can stop acting out. The real problem is we have a mind that leads us back to that first drink or that acting out experience, which starts the cycle over and over and over again. So a really good definition of this mental process or this mental obsession is an intrusive thought or idea that's stronger than and doesn't respond to reason. So in other words, it's an idea, it's a thought of acting out. Like maybe the person's not acting out, but they get this idea in their head that they want to, and it eats away at them and eats away at them. And it's stronger than and doesn't respond to reason. So they might say, I know that I can't go do this behavior because XYZ is going to happen. And I might lose my marriage. I might get into legal issues and whatever the consequences are, I might lose my job. But the thought and the idea of acting out does not respond to reason. So they go and they do the behavior. And what it really feels like is it's kind of like, I can't deal with this obsession in my head. I'm just going to do it. I'll deal with the consequences later. So it's an intrusive thought or idea that's stronger than and doesn't respond to reason. When somebody said that to me, I was like, that's exactly what happens, you know? And so anyway, that's kind of so the first one is this inability to stop once we start. The second one is an inability to stay stopped, an inability to stay stopped because of this mental process that leads us back to acting out over and over and over again. So that's the cycle of addiction. And that's why people have this utter inability to stop despite the negative consequences. So there is a third area that I want to talk about. And this is the area where the recovery really takes place for sex addiction, which is what we find out is that we really have a sober problem. So in other words, it's an issue where the person cannot stay sober and live a satisfactory enough life and sort of have the inner peace and presence and calmness in their life and lack of turmoil that that doesn't necessitate this desire to act out, which is really a coping mechanism for what's going on in them. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says they're restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can feel the ease and comfort that comes from taking a few drinks. And that shows you, why does somebody act out sexually? They're looking for comfort. They're looking to avoid something. They're looking to medicate, to numb out. There's lots of different ways. So when I work with clients on, you know, the underlying reasons behind their acting out, we're really looking for like, what's going on with you internally that's causing you to need to medicate in some way in your life. Sometimes that's trauma, sometimes that's depression, sometimes that's ADHD, sometimes that's anxiety, sometimes it's a whole bunch of different, you know, little traumas and life experiences and things like that. But the key in treating this issue, this utter inability to stop, which the main problem is that mental process that leads us back to that first drink or that acting out, is to treat that restless, irritable, and discontent, what I call the sober problem, to treat the sober problem. So to create a structure around a person's life of accountability and sobriety and define what sexual sobriety is, while simultaneously and intensively taking a look at what's going on internally. So some of that is spiritual work, meditation, exercise, nutrition, therapy, writing processes. These are all things that I include in my program. And what we have found is that when we treat that sober problem, that restless, irritable, and discontent, all of a sudden that mental obsession goes away and the person breaks the cycle of addiction, and they're able to, on a daily basis, to stay sober. And not only that, but they're able to wake up every day. I wake up and I'm not afraid that I'm going to act out that. I no longer have that mental obsession, that cycle. As long as I'm doing the things that I need to do in my recovery and I continue to grow personally and personal development, spiritual growth, all the things that I need to do in my recovery, I no longer have that mental obsession. So it's been over 12 years since I've acted out. It's an amazing thing. So a lot of people think you have to control the behavior and avoid people, places, and things. And there's some truth to, like, you know, not doing things that are going to put you in danger of acting out. But the real recovery, if you want to really, because this disease